everybody. I am so excited to be joined by Adam McKinney, the Artistic Director of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. This is our second year of Raising the Barre, and our title today is Creating Real Impact, Community Engagement That Matters. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
I read an interview with you, and what you said just really struck me, and I'm going to quote, "Externally, I moved to meet the people of Pittsburgh. Under my leadership, I will work to develop relationships in and with the broader communities to ensure that all people know they are welcome and belong at PBT." This is the first time I can remember an artistic director saying that, referencing the city in which he or she's going to work, and offering and sort of really prioritizing connecting. And I thought, I really need to meet this person. Tell me about that comment. You obviously chose to lead with it, and I'm so impressed, but I'm also intrigued.
You know, I think relationships are at the center of everything that I do, and it's something that I'm imparting here as Artistic Director of PBT. And certainly as part of my own interview process for this position, I learned people's names before I got here. I tried to learn as much about them as people and their experiences and worked to reflect that back. Additionally, for example, we are doing Beauty and the Beast right now at the beautiful Benedum Center for the Performing Arts in downtown Pittsburgh. And I fill all of my pockets with chocolate and walk around the audiences and in the lobby and introduce myself and offer people gifts of sugar and chocolate, which might not be the most healthy option, but it certainly is a way of connecting and making sure that people know who I am and creating opportunities for me to meet others.
What a different and brilliant model of leadership, which isn't just I'm in a bubble. I'm going to talk to the 15 major donors, and I'm on the top of the pedestal, and I have an art form to perfect. It's an icebreaker. You're reaching out, and I'm assuming you're not just giving out the chocolate to the major donors, right? As important as they are.
I mean, if you're 5 years old and a major donor, I'd be surprised. But what I can say is that I view my position holistically.
Okay.
And it is about developing relationships with the major funders in town. And it's also about making connections and developing relationships with people who are not yet connected to the ballet, and inviting opportunities for people to fall in love with one another and with ballet.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So it's with one another as well. I went to ABT a few years ago, and I'm still friends with like 6 of the women sitting around me. And we end up doing things together. We talk about the ballet. We send YouTube reels back and forth. So I love that idea. As you know, I visited Pittsburgh, and it's one of my favorite cities under Susan Jaffe. You have beautiful studios, et cetera, in a beautiful city. What do you think makes Pittsburgh unique, and what attracted you to this job?
Well, certainly Pittsburgh has a long history of supporting the arts. You may know that at one time, Pittsburgh was one of the richest cities in the United States due to the steel industry. And therein was an opportunity to impart the importance of the arts in and with community. For example, now at our Nutcracker, you'll see people in Steelers outfits. Like I said, we just had Beauty and the Beast this past weekend, and there were people in Pittsburgh Penguins jerseys. And I think Pittsburgh understands that the arts are important to and for everyone, that it is not meant only to reflect the lives of people with access to resources, but that what ballet does and what ballet is central to one's experience of what it means to be a Pittsburgher and human. And so I think that attracted me to Pittsburgh in the first place, was the manner in which Pittsburgh Ballet Theater situated itself in and among the arts and culture ecology here in Pittsburgh. As well, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I think that there are kind of social and geographic things to
A
which
lot of similarities,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
One of the things that I was thinking about in terms of, I read the job description when you were applying for the job. One of the things that impressed me, and I want to give a shout out to the board members and the search committee of the board of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, is that they seem to really prioritize finding somebody with a real connection to and a commitment to the community, or I would say communities in Pittsburgh. And you don't always see that. It was front and center. And so, assuming that they hired somebody who's really serious about this, tell me about how you're going about the process of truly engaging with communities, and I'll make that a plural, in your now chosen city.
It's a great question. I can respond with centering programs that are accessible to people. That has to do with ticket prices. That has to do with the repertoire that I am selecting. It has to do with representation and who people see on stage. It has to do with the content of the repertoire. What stories are we telling? How are we telling them? And it also happens in the manner in which our departments are intersectional. The manner in which our departments work together toward the end goal of making sure that our tables are more wide and that our door frames are that much more open. From a practical perspective, it means making myself accessible to people. And so, I have access to complimentary tickets, and wherever I go, whether it's to the grocery store or to Temple or to a restaurant, I always have complimentary tickets with me, and I introduce myself and I make friends with people and I give them tickets. Now, some of them don't always come, but some do. And even for those who don't come, they know that they have access to me in particular ways that is not traditional to our form. And I think supports the understanding that people will know that they belong here because they have a relationship with me.
Absolutely, because the culture starts at the top, right? And what you're mirroring is, please come to my house. Please start a conversation with me. You truly are welcome. We're excited to see you. It's also, to me, very revolutionary in how you're conceiving of artistic director. It's not you're off in a room with just the company, looking at perfecting a pas de deux. It's a real reach to everybody and getting out there. I assume that takes up quite a bit of your time, right?
It does take up some of my time. I will say that I have a great team around me. Rehearsal directors Barbara Bears, former principal Houston Ballet, Stephen Anagarn, former principal PNB, Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. My co-partner, Nicholas Draga, executive director, who's also new to PBT. He's been here 3 months. And together we are redefining who we want to be. And that extends to all of our departments and in the studio, the manner in which I'm working with the artists, what I expect of them and what they expect of me. So it is in refining the pas de deux specifically, and it's also creating opportunities for the artists to take leadership in what they want PBT to be. And for me as the leader, to create opportunities for them to step into leadership roles.
So let's just pause for a second and recognize how incredibly revolutionary that statement is, what you just said. I'm just, you mean you're giving the dancers an opportunity to voice opinions and have a stake in artistic direction, etc. Oh boy.
Well, yeah. Okay, great. Revolutionary. And I will say that it's not, it comes with risk.
Oh, yeah.
There are some dancers who only want to perform Petipa ballets, and others who only want to perform Balanchine ballets, and those who only want to perform contemporary ballets. So it's about receiving feedback and then identifying what's best for the organization together. And I think that it's about having a collective vision for PBT and getting everybody on board internally and externally. There is, I was programming Barack Marshall's Monger for our Light in the Dark program alongside other works, Jennifer Archibald, Sasha Janes, and the other pas de deux was by Annabelle Lopez Ochoa. I invited feedback from an artist. I showed the artist some of Barack's work, and I said to this person who has been in the ballet for many years as a dancer, what do you think about this work? How do you think audiences will receive this work? And ended up inviting Barack to stage his Monger here. And it was super well received, a highlight for many of the evening. And I think therein lies an example of what it means to bring other people into decision-making. When we talk about community, it's not only, those external communities, but it's also about developing a culture of care and communication internally that can only support the vision of the organization.
Yeah, you said something about collective vision, listening to get there, and then, making that a reality. And that is very much how I try and lead, but it also takes a lot of extra time. Instead of just sort of issuing diktats, there's a lot more back and forth. I think a lot more trust is built, but also, I think for ballet dancers and maybe some audiences who are used to, and this is the one way, and we're not going to think about it, that's very challenging in some ways because it completely, I'm not going to use that word again, they have to rethink who they are as artists and rethink their role in the company or rethink their role as part of the audience. I think that's very exciting.
I think so too. And there is, right? Yeah, there is like this recalibration around identifying who we are. I welcome artists to use their voice. I have an open door policy. Let's just be in communication about it. And that too is, part of that recalibrative process. And I think it can only make us better, right? My question is, when has being silent ever worked for anyone? I don't think ever.
Agreed, but again, that is a big recalibration, rethinking, just like having chocolates in your pocket and getting out there in the scrum and talking to people. That is so different than the way at least traditional ballet companies have been run. You had another quote that bears on this that I thought was really good. You said, "What I really want to do is listen, to sit with people and ask them about what they need from PBT." I say again, woofta! Wow, big change. Can you speak to that just a little?
Absolutely. I find myself in the lobby during every intermission of every ballet. For example, twice during Sleeping Beauty's 3 acts, every single Nutcracker, listening to people, what they have loved about PBT, what they haven't loved about PBT, what they love about our Nutcracker, what they never want to see in our new Nutcracker. I have done a lot of listening. I've been here 1 year already, hard to believe. And, I want to make sure that the decisions that I make are informed by the needs of Pittsburgh and to identify blind spots. This is the direction that I want to take the organization, informed by you. And these are the things that I think you should know about ballet, about the people who are employed by the ballet, about what ballet can offer you in terms of your quality of life.
I'm just thinking of the kind of people who would, I mean, it would absolutely work for me, the kind of people that would be attracted to that kind of leadership style, which is, this is an opportunity for me to use my voice. This is an opportunity for me to really bring my whole self and engage with and create very exciting possibilities. As somebody who spent a lot of time in philanthropy with my husband in Chicago, really thinking hard about how to serve under-resourced communities with respect and integrity, but also not creating, rocket science. Like, what do you need? What you're saying really resonates with me. And let's talk about how you envision doing that and some sort of concrete steps and thoughts. When I first talked to you, you're like, lady, I just got here,
I don't know if I called you lady.
No, not that, but it was sort of like, whoa, I just got here. I don't know where the second floor closet is. I gotta learn my way around. I was like, fair enough. But the job search and the way you talked about the community was so exciting and so different. I couldn't wait to talk to you. Now that you've been there a year, sort of give us a where you're at and what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I loved the distinction that you offered, Elizabeth, around the language of and difference between the words of community and communities, and that to homogenize any group of people, in effect, doesn't allow for the innate diversity within groups of people. My time, as we discussed, has been spent listening and developing relationships and getting a sense of the topographical nature of the art scene here. Who is getting funded and why? Who is getting produced and why? What teaching and learning in ballet looks like and why. And so as I work toward developing partnerships locally, ensuring that resources are shared accordingly. For example, there's an amazing organization called Hill Dance Academy Theater, led by Dr. Aisha Morgan Lee here in the Hill District in Pittsburgh. They teach ballet and jazz and hip hop and modern and contemporary. For example, Ronald K. Brown is staging a ballet on this Academy Theater this year. And the vision that she is holding out for her organization and for Pittsburgh and the field of dance is incredibly impressive and just, integrated and inspiring. And we have a commitment to collaborating with Hill Dance Academy Theater in ways that make sense for their organization. I have lots of ideas, and my role is to understand the manner in which power and privilege is enacted, period, and to ensure that it is no longer enacted in my relationships with the various communities who we serve and who we don't yet serve, and to ask the question, what do you need from us? And then to show up accordingly. And so Dr. Aisha Morgan Lee has asked that we collaborate on the International Association of Blacks in Dance Conference that will be held here in Pittsburgh in January of 2025. We will make our space available for whatever needs there are.
That's going to be so exciting.
Absolutely. And, like, for example, Jennifer Archibald was here offering a workshop for community, and we made sure that However many artists from Hill Dance Academy Theater wanted to participate, had access to participating, and have access to these amazing artists who come in here. So it's about sharing the resource and making sure that everyone has access to everything that we're doing as much as is possible.
What other plans do you have? Are there communities that you haven't looked at yet that you think I was looking at the demographics of Pittsburgh, and you mentioned topography. It's very interesting. There's a lot of hills, and sort of there's sort of like Chicago. It's very neighborhoody, right? And reaching out to all of those is going to be interesting, and it's not a small geographical area either.
No, there are 92 specific neighborhoods here in Pittsburgh. Each of which has its own topography, cultural identity, and I'm still early in my tenure here at PBT, but I'm working closely with Raymond Rodriguez, our new dean of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater School, on our curriculum, working with Kara Alexander Sullivan, our Director of Education and Community Engagement, for a new PBT in Schools dance program, ensuring that all young people in the city of Pittsburgh through Pittsburgh Public Schools have access to dance training as an essential part of their development as young people. And as a very clear strategic pipeline toward continued diversification of artists in the company. But I'd be interested to better understand what you learned from your research, just in terms of the various populations here. What I do know is that there's a large immigrant population in Pittsburgh. And when we think about accessibility, it makes me think about language and the manner in which we are languaging the work that we do, and working with various organizations to translate our job descriptions into different languages, so that people have access to the possibility of being employed here in Pittsburgh. I think that there are many opportunities for collaboration outside of the field of ballet that will make ballet more robust and available to people. And I think that that is necessarily an untapped practice and resource in the field that I look forward to learning about and participating in. One of the many things that I'm looking forward to here at PBT is the longevity of our commitments to communities, and listening and responding accordingly. And that has everything to do with being in communication with the Cultural Trust and Pittsburgh Public Theater and the opera and City Light Opera. It's about having this holistic understanding of relationships in the arts and culture sector, with other ballet companies, with the people who we employ, with students, with various communities locally. And, I'm thinking about what a mentor told me many years ago: how you do anything is how you do everything. And you can't be committed to this one thing over here and not be doing it over here. That it has to be reflective, and, the plates need to be spinning all at the same time.
Which is, I'm sure, exhausting, but also really exhilarating.
Yeah, and you have to have a team around you.
Absolutely. Let me be a little bit, I guess, more blunt. Do you have a 5-year plan for community engagement that's part of the strategic plan? Do you have goals? I mean, this may be a freighted question, but sort of, how does Adam McKinney, how does PBT's board, how do your community partners define success?
My first year here at PBT has really been focusing on planning and protocols. We do have a strategic plan that was created prior to my arrival that in some ways needs to be updated based on my vision. And the vision of Nicholas Draga, executive director, and the collective vision of the organization. We've been implementing that strategic plan as best as we can, and it's time to create a new strategic plan for the organization. Parallelly, we have a strategic plan for inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, which is, of course, connected to the larger strategic plan and takes into account community engagement specifically. And some of those things that I think are particularly pertinent are ensuring that the dancers in the organization reflect the diversity of the city of Pittsburgh. And we are working toward that. And that the programming is also accessible from a financial perspective, and really looking at costs related to coming to the ballet. Pittsburgh Opera just unveiled a new program whereby people can take an Uber directly to the ballet, and that would be an added fee. And I'm thinking about what that could look like for the ballet, and not offering an added fee as a way to ensure that we continue to diversify our audiences. But to be completely frank, there are opportunities at the ballet to be more specific about how we want to move forward. And what I can say is that I don't know that it was the priority of the leadership prior to my arrival in ways that community engagement is a priority for me, and the way in which I see community engagement being implemented. And I think that we're at a particular moment in the company's history where I'm new, the executive director is new, marketing, development, school, finance, education, and community engagement. We're all new. And it harkens the opportunity to assess and recommit ourselves to the values that were implemented, early in the creation of the organization.
Adam McKinney, thank you so much for spending this time with us, Raising the Barre, and talking to us about how you are working with Pittsburgh Ballet and other cultural institutions to create a more inviting culture. How's that?
Thank you. That sounds pretty accurate. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.